everybody. We're back again with our mayor, John Flynn, for In with Flynn.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Isn't it? Did you like all that rain last night? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
several
really
times.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We had, like you mentioned a little earlier, the city council meetings have kind of gotten a little slower. I think some things have been worked out, and we're not having as much activity as we normally do, or that we have.
A lot of times it slows down a little bit in the summer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've noticed that a little bit. One of the things I was going to go over some of the things on the agenda this month.
Good.
One of them is, there was a proposal about early filing of campaign contributions and expenditure reports. What happens under the law right now, the state law, you have to file them 10 days before the election, so that's pretty late in October. And one of our councilmen proposed that the city have a rule that in Bella Vista you have to file them before early voting starts, because they were concerned that so many people vote early and maybe didn't know where the campaign contributions were coming from and whatnot. So that's what that is, and that's going to be up for a vote this time. They've delayed it a few times. One of the things that happened is a state representative asked the Attorney General for a legal opinion if the city could do that, the Attorney General Griffin. And he came out with his ruling recently and said, yes, it was okay for a city to do that. So if we do that, Bella Vista will be the only city, at least at first, with that kind of a rule. But the council is going to vote on it coming up this week. And then there was a second kind of related provision urging the citizens to pay attention to this and be vigilant and think about where people's campaign contributions come from. So that was the whole thrust of it. Yeah.
Well, John, let's Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's for us to be friends. It's sometimes hard to remember your official title. I apologize, Mr. Mayor. Mm-hmm. Let's just why would that be important to somebody to know that?
Oh, well, yeah, the theory of it is that perhaps people are getting contributions from particular groups or even people outside the city, and the theory being that, maybe that person's voting would be influenced in particular by that or the actions they would take. That's kind of something that happens in politics in general nowadays, and particularly on the national level more than the local. But that's the theory of it, just so that people would, understand if people had a lot of outside financing or specialized groups, whatnot. So,
but at any time, anybody can actually see that information as they file all throughout. So, this would just be seeing it a little early.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. So. Closer to an election.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Financials, you guys still doing good, huh?
Well, before we jump to that, I had something else about with council. They had a transaction for $64,000 for what they call turnout gear for the fire department.
Yes.
And what that is that's the gear they wear for fires and whatnot. And it actually has a 10-year life. By law, you have to change it out in 10 years. I think it's fire resistant and whatnot, so there's various things about it that they feel it only has so long a life. So the $64,000 is that's not for all the firemen. That's just the ones that happen to be 10 years old now. Mm-hmm. And you do notice when you start running the city, there's certain expenditures that are kind of recurring, that are just going to come up no matter what you do. And that's an example one. On the police side, the police cars get 120,000 miles and you have to buy a new one. So you end up buying so many cars every year. And there's a lot of different things, that expenditures that you really can't get out of.
That's right.
So you notice that when you're trying to run the city and keep the budget down.
Yeah. Well, but that's a very important thing to keep up to date. That's protection for the firemen.
Yeah.
And what happens with the old things, the ones that are retired?
Well, that's a good point. You can't resell them or anything because of the 10-year. So I think they have to dispose of it one way or another.
Or use them for training, maybe?
Yeah, they did say that sometimes they'll use them in training and whatnot so they don't mess up their they're good stuff.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So,
Well, we want our firemen to be safe.
yeah, that's very important.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So now tell us about your financials.
Okay, well, the May 31, 2024 financials came out. That's for the first 5 months of the year. And operating revenues up 3.8% versus last year. Interesting, city sales tax was up 6.8%, but the county was only up 2.6%. You know, we get a lot of money from the county, and this is the first month when the county's increase was very small. I wondered, is that a trend? Now it's starting to look like a trend. For some reason, county-wide business activity is not increasing like it did last year. You know, maybe these high interest rates and whatnot are starting to have a little bit of an effect. So
Gotcha.
we have to keep watching that. Operating expenditures are $602,000 better than the budget. So we spent $602,000 less than we had budgeted for. So that's good. So we seem to have things under control that way. Our fund balance is still around $15 million. And all the time I was on city council, I was on about 8 years, we usually had the balance around $6 to $8 million.
Okay.
And when I came into office, we had it pumped up higher on purpose because we knew there'd be a lot of capital expenditures. Plus, the former mayor was worried there might be a recession, which turned out there wasn't, fortunately.
Could have been.
At least not so far.
Yes, yes.
So we actually are trying to gradually take that down, but we want to kind of make a soft landing, so to speak, and just take it down a little at a time, because you don't want to be sitting on too much of the taxpayers' money. You know,
Right.
You want to do it just right.
Yes.
But one other thing I wanted to mention, the combination of us having good savings and interest rates having gone up, our interest income this year is $194,000 for the first 5 months, and last year it was $96,000. And in contrast, the year before I was mayor, it was only $180,000 for the whole year. So in the first 5 months, we've made more interest than we did the whole year, and that's partially because cities can only do safe investments. They don't buy stock, common stock, and things like that. So we tend to get CDs and different kind of investments like that. But we are able to make a significant amount of money, so that's good for the taxpayers. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I've noticed with those CDs that are out there now that they're still paying a pretty significant rate, but the extension or the term of the CDs have come down. Like, they're not doing the 13 months so much anymore. They're doing 8 months and, shorter.
I noticed the ones with the good rates, are pretty short sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
I asked about that the other day for another reason, and he said, well, we just don't know what's going to happen, and we don't want to be kind of stuck with a higher, paying out higher interest rates. So.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, it's working for us, for sure.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. Oh, man, here's something that was a nice, I don't know if it was nice or not, surprise the other day in the mail from the property taxes.
Yeah, that Benton County now is reevaluating every 3 years. And so people right now are getting notices about their property values. And, of course, property valuations are up quite a bit. So I want to tell people things so they wouldn't get too alarmed. The first thing is, if you're 65 or over, your property taxes are frozen. So they'll send you a note that your value went up, but your taxes aren't going to go up if it's your residence.
Your homestead or your residence.
But the other thing that happens, I think Arkansas is very kind in this way. If your value goes up a lot, say your house is worth $200,000, now they send you a letter and say, oh, it's worth $300,000 or $400,000, some amount way bigger. Your property taxes, if it's where you live, they call it a homestead, it can only go up 5% a year. So you think, oh my gosh, my property's way more valuable. I'm going to pay this big tax. It only goes up a little bit each year. And even if it's not your personal residence, if it's, say, a home you rent out or something, it goes up 10% a year.
Okay.
So even those, so that way you don't get this gigantic shock when your value goes way up, because some people see the value, they get kind of excited. Although I haven't had any calls about it yet. Some of the mayors say they get calls from constituents and whatnot.
Yeah, I've noticed some talk on social media, which I pretty much discount on all levels. But you just explained something to me. I forgot. The reason that my house in particular has gone up like everybody else's, but my tax has not, and that's because if you're over 65. So yes, frozen. Everybody, I'm over 65. Okay, but at any rate, that's good to know.
Yeah. So, before I became mayor, I was on the Board of Equalization, which is the county group. It's a 9-member commission, and they hear appeals from people who think their taxes are incorrect. Sometimes they're from businesses and sometimes from individuals. And it was really interesting. You get to know the whole county that way. I bet you do. And what's going on. There's certain businesses that appeal quite a bit.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
But with the individuals, sometimes people would, some people would come in and be all organized and have all these comps and everything, and other times people would just kind of like, my taxes are too high.
Yeah.
They didn't have much ammo backing them up.
Yeah.
So, but it was an interesting position. But when I became mayor, that's a conflict, so I resigned from that. But.
Mr. Mayor, it's wonderful to have somebody with your experience in so many different pieces of the networking thing that you have to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea you did things like that, but your 8 years on the council and other things, you brought a lot of good tools to the table.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, too. You get to know some of the county employees, and I was surprised how many county employees live in Bella Vista. You go to one organization after another, and there's all kinds of people from Bella Vista. It's amazing what contributor we are to society in general.
And we live in a beautiful, wonderful place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, let's. We're going to take a break in a minute, but right now let's quickly talk about the fire station number 1, the capital expenditures.
Yeah, that's moving along. We took the old police offices and are turning them into living quarters for fire station number 1,
which is right down there on 71.
Yeah, right? And they're pretty far along there, and it's supposed to be ready in September. So the firemen, I'm sure, are anxious to move into that, and. Then after that, they've already started the part in front of it. City Hall will be on the first floor, and the fire officers' offices on the second floor. It's going to come out in front of that part of the building. So we're moving right along with things, but it is significant capital expenditures.
Yes.
And we're probably going to finance some of that, even though we have the money. Mm-hmm. It's kind of... I really noticed this. For an individual, you'll invest money and maybe it'll pay 4% or 5%. Then you go to borrow money, get a mortgage or something, and it's 7%.
Yeah.
There's always a gap there. Mm-hmm. Well, with cities, because the bonds and whatnot are tax-free, you actually can make more interest than you pay.
Yes.
There's a little gap in your favor. So sometimes we borrow money just to be conservative and make a little money that's why I was talking about our interest income. You can actually have a loan and actually come out ahead on it because of the
I am so glad that you're
status.
saying this, because a lot of people out there don't understand that sometimes it is more important as far as how you're managing your budget to borrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, ironically, sometimes we borrow even though we have money. That one new ladder fire truck we got a few years ago was $1.3 million, and we actually financed that over 5 years.
Yeah.
Even though we could have paid cash.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about a whole bunch of other really great things.
Okay.
We'll be right
good.
back.
Hello, I'm Dave Todd, president of Todd Films. We work alongside Bella Vista Community Television to produce some of the content you see aired here. Have you thought about reaching your customers through a television ad? we have several options for you to consider. They range from coming to our studio here, or going to your place of business, or on location. Once you have your commercial, Bella Vista Community Television has several options for you to consider for airing your commercial. Do you have a live event that you would like to capture on video? We also offer live production packages that may be of interest. Please continue to tune in to Bella Vista Community Television. We hope you are enjoying this program. And now back to the show.
Hey there, we're back. You know, we've got a bunch of other really great things to talk about, but let's start with the housing startups. Are we still growing like crazy?
Yeah, people kind of always want to know about that, and our housing starts are still strong. You know, in 2023, we had around 500 housing starts, and this year, actually, we look like so far we're up a little bit from that. I'm surprised with the interest rates being higher. It's almost like people have adjusted to it. You know, they've just gotten used to it, and that's the way it's going to be. And at least in Northwest Arkansas, it hasn't slowed things down that much. In fact, really, if you look at our area, the construction market is very strong. You know, it's partially because of Walmart building that new headquarters. That's an ongoing project. I've had people tell me they're going to finish different buildings and move people in, and I've talked to employees there that aren't going to move in for a couple of years yet. So they're going to be doing construction that whole time. And then there's other construction, you know, and housing starts in the various cities. So if you look at our economy, the construction sector is really pretty strong in Northwest Arkansas.
It is, and you know, those people with the higher interest rate mortgages can, at some point in the future, can renegotiate that mortgage and get their rate down.
I think a lot of people, that's what they're thinking, that they can afford it, qualify for the mortgage, and they think, well, later on I'll refinance if the interest rate gets better, which most people think it will.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now you're still working with FEMA.
Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. You know, we're kind of small potatoes compared to our neighbors south of us that had just terrible damage. But it looks like we could get maybe approximately $100,000. And it's a lot of red tape, but we thought maybe it was worth it. Actually, a lot of our damage that's reimbursable was on the trails.
Yes.
You can clean them up and fix them. You know, there's a lot of trees that fell on the trails. We had to go out and cut them and move them off the trail. But the other thing happened was there's some big trees that fell, and they had gigantic root balls. So it actually took out part of the trail. You know, it left a big hole there. So a lot of those things we are able to get reimbursement from FEMA. And of course we had some overtime with street department and fire department and whatnot. I had some water rescue activity during that time.
And that one washout of the road that dropped off into that big ravine, that took a while. And
now, what happened with that? One thing about that probably would be very significant damage, except that was a state highway, so the state paid for it.
Never mind then. Okay, well,
but
still.
Yeah, that was pretty. You know, it surprised me about that a little bit because Lancashire is such a busy roadway. When they made that one-way light, you know, that you use the one lane, the delay wasn't as long as I thought it would be. I mean, it was a little bit, but it wasn't really. You know, I would have thought it'd be way worse than it was.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, so just for clarity, so 340 and 279, those are all state roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course 71.
And 71, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, but like Glasgow and some other streets like that are Bella Vista?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that confuses a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Like, and the next thing we're going to be talking about here is this Little Sugar Creek. So there's the difference between Bella Vista getting our bridge done so quickly and the state taking a little more time. So let's talk about the Little Sugar Bridge.
Yeah, I was laughing because when I first became mayor, I heard from consumers or residents quite a bit, particularly about the Tanyard Creek Bridge.
Yes.
Which was nice when they completed it, but it took quite a while. And the Little Sugar Bridge, they started pouring some cement, and they've been telling us pretty consistently it would be done in August. I'm almost afraid to tell people what they say
know.
because construction has a way of being delayed.
Yeah.
But boy, people will be relieved by that. I mean, it's worked okay the way it is, but it'll be nice when it's open, right?
You know, and it's curious when you go across there because that second bridge that they're building
Yeah.
is wide.
Yeah.
So that intersection is going to be something to look forward to, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, aside from one thing I like is they have sidewalks, pedestrian accommodation on, the Mercy Way Bridge,
Yes.
and then both the bridges on Lancashire. So we are starting to increase our sidewalks, well, biking and walking both. So that's very hopeful that we're getting that. And I think the way that bridge is set up, you're going to have turn lanes and whatnot, because so many people turn on the freeway from there.
yes, that's
Yeah.
what it looks like to me,
So-
too. Okay, so we kind of already talked about the fire station being finished in September, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a third part that will start after that has to do with City Hall. I think
Yeah,
we've
the way
talked
we
about
look
it before.
at it, phase 1 was doing the fire station living quarters, and then phase 2 is City Hall and the fire department offices above it. So that's phase 2. Then phase 3, it's old City Hall. They're going to fix that up a little bit. That's where I am now. And community development's going to be in there.
Okay.
And then phase 4, we're going to put in 2 more bays, which are longer and taller, and then they'll have 5 bays there in Fire Station Number 1. You know,
Gotcha.
right now, Fire Station Number 1 does about 60% of the calls.
Really?
So, yeah, it's the most active
Well,
fire
it's
station.
kind of central.
Yeah, it covers a lot of ground. So at some point, in a few years down the line, we're going to have a Fire Station Number 5 and take a little of the burden off, spread things around a little bit. So.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. All right, well, let's talk about something fun.
Yeah.
You have a new logo.
Yeah, our
Well,
communications.
maybe it'll be up here on the screen here in a minute.
Our communications
Look at there,
director,
see?
Cassie Lapp, developed this new logo, and with some outside consultants from Bentonville, and it's been 9 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Since this kind of industry standard is every 9 or 10 years, and we really did think that we needed a refresh. And the thing I like about this logo is it's simple. It's very modern.
Yeah, it is.
And it says City of Bella Vista because people get confused between the city and the POA.
Yeah.
So this way it makes it more clear.
Well, it is. It's very modern. And with the way things are happening with Blue Crane taking over Cooper and all that, it's perfect time to give a new logo
Yeah.
moving forward to the future.
I kind of got a kick out of the city council meeting the other day, the work session. I can't remember who said this, but somebody, when we were talking about having a new logo, somebody said, "What's changed?" in Bella Vista. It made me laugh.
I know, because
what hasn't
everything-
changed would be a better question.
Exactly.
We're kind of at a watershed place right now, I think.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, that's fun. And it didn't really cost us much, and I think it's going to, most people say they'll like it. When you do something like this, you're always, because there's always going to be somebody who likes it, somebody doesn't, but it seems to have a pretty good reception so far. So.
And you're just going to kind of roll it out and eventually put it on the vehicles.
Yeah,
and
mainly it just goes on the vehicles and stationery, and people have clothing in certain departments. The police and fire don't. They have
Yeah.
their uniform type stuff.
Yeah.
But like community development and the street department and whatnot, they have some clothing items. So.
Well, I really like it. I think it's refreshing and it's full of hope for good things in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what's coming up in the neighborhood?
Well, we have a few things coming up. I had down newcomers on Saturday, July 27. We do that every 3 months, and it's at Bella Vista Country Club. And
Yeah, and I think we have the hours and the time and the date and
Yeah.
everything up here right now.
9:30 a.m.
I think we say 9:30 because there's a social time
Yeah.
right before the 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and there is a lot of pamphlets, whatnot, people can get, and they can visit with various people there. So,
Right.
But that gives people a great outline of the city and the POA and the ACC, and there's a lot to learn. But when Tom Judson gets up and starts explaining to them on POA and where all the things are, you realize, man, there's a lot to take in if you're new. You
Exactly.
know? So
Exactly.
people seem to really enjoy that. It's always well attended, and I think it's a great idea. The neat thing about that to me is that was a grassroots concept. You know, citizens just decided to do that, and then they
great.
got the POA and city to come to it. So
Yeah.
that's great.
And we're recording it now, so if anybody wants to go back and look at it later, they can, you know.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, you know, somebody said, why do you record it every time? There's something new every time.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same. That's right. That's
Yeah.
a good idea, because then people could go back, refer to it, and learn some. Or maybe they couldn't make it that day. They could still get all the information that way.
That's right.
So-
Okay, so now I think there's one more thing that's happening in July. Tell me about this Cottage Lane Village project real quick.
Yeah, they're having a groundbreaking for that on July 30, and that actually is just south of here. It's on Forest Hills Boulevard. I don't know if people ever noticed, but when you go down Forest Hills from Lancashire, head south, on the left-hand side, there's some little cottages, just kind of a little lane with cottages. And what they're doing is they're building a small apartment complex on the other side of that street. And it was approved quite a while ago, but it's just getting started now. Anyway, it's going to be 40 units, so it's going to be modest. Each building has like 4 on the first floor, and then 4 on the second floor.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a breezeway between them and another building, so it's not one of these big, gigantic ones like you see in some of the cities around here. So I
Yeah.
kind of like it from that point of view. But it's supposed to be more of a affordable housing type thing. And it's a little historical because somebody in planning pointed this out to me the other day. It's the first apartment building in Bella Vista.
It certainly is.
Yeah. And I like the way it's modest, and you know, people are talking about affordable housing, how that's a big concern in Northwest Arkansas in general. So you know, we in Bella Vista we want to have more housing options, more housing types than we used to, and but we don't want to get carried away either.
Exactly.
So, you know, we want to keep the nice atmosphere we have. So anyway, this is an exciting thing that this is happening, and it took a lot of work on the part of the folks. It's a group called CDC Corp. Casey Klein-Hens is the head of it, and they're trying to do affordable housing all over Northwest Arkansas.
Yes,
But it's a big
yes.
job. There's a lot of red tape with the government and all that sort of thing. You know, it's funny, as you live a while, what people call affordable.
I
Rents
know.
have gone up so much. It didn't sound that cheap to me, but I guess it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing that's happening, as you know, Freeze and Nichols, Tulsa group that's doing the consulting on our new code reform and
Yes.
zoning reform. They're going to have an update in August. It's going to be at the City Council work session, but so that project, I believe, will be ready in they were saying early in 2025.
Yes.
But it's a big job, and it's really needed. You know, I read the rough draft of the code they've done so far on the zoning side, and it's, boy, it makes you realize what a massive job it is. There's so much detail in that. It's kind of thing only people in planning and the Planning Commission really dig into that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that's good stuff. We like that.
Yeah. But it's important, and it's going to be a big plus for the city that we get that straightened around.
Well, you know, when you first became a city, you had to do a lot of things on the fly. And like you say, it's been 9 years now, right?
Yeah.
So as you go through these things, you realize, like, ooh, that ordinance probably doesn't apply to Bella Vista quite like it should.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of cleanup and making it more applicable to us.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it because I'm kind of a data miner nerd.
Yeah.
So I like stuff like that.
Yeah, being on the Planning Commission, sometimes you see some of the things that are wrong with the code.
Yes,
You know, you
yes.
go, one section of the code might contradict another section, you know, or written at different times. And being able to clean all that stuff up and make it'll be better for everybody, the builders and the people who live here and
That's right.
everyone involved.
Well, as always, Mayor, it's wonderful to talk to you. I look forward to these. I am a regular, as you probably know, at all your work sessions and your city council meetings because it's important to me to know what's going on in the city.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
let's one more time encourage folks to come to those meetings at the Public Safety Building.
Yeah.
When's the next
The
regular
city council regular meeting is Monday, July 22 at 6 p.m.
It's always the fourth
Yeah.
Monday. So when you have that extra, that confuses people sometimes
Yeah.
when you have that extra Monday. But anyway, join us. Come see for yourself. What the mayor and the city council does is not for the faint of heart. You really have a lot of important decisions to make that are not always easy for people to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. But anyway, thank you, and we'll see you next month for sure.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Take care, Bella Vista. We'll see you soon.